It's time, Cougar Nation. Cougar Tracks. The best season analysis with BYU insider Mitch Harper on KSL NewsRadio and on video every day on the YouTube page for KSL Sports.
Welcome into Cougar Tracks on this Monday edition of the show. I am your BYU insider, Mitch Harper. I won't get too much into the weeds, but it has been a Monday for me, and appreciate all of your patience with this audio being uploaded. No video today. There were some video technical glitches on my end, trying to sort through all that, then had some home plumbing issues. It's been a day, folks, to say the least. But you know what's always good? What brings the good vibes back quickly when you think about an undefeated BYU football team, and that's where things stand for Cougar football heading into the bye, and that's our top story of the day.
The top story of the day. The biggest story in the world of BYU sports right here on Cougar Tracks.
BYU 41, Iowa State 27. The Cougars rolled into Ames. They faced the Cyclones head-on, and they had their own storm brewing as BYU roared back in the second half to take down Iowa State by 2 scores. And you think back to the offseason when this schedule was announced, no one, even if Jake Retzloff would have been the quarterback, no one was expecting BYU to win this game. They thought, oh, rivalry letdown, BYU's going to fall to Iowa State. Tough road environment, and that it was. It was a sold-out crowd. BYU fans still made their voices heard, but it was pro-Iowa State. They were loud, they were proud, they were ready to roll. And BYU, led by freshman quarterback Bear Bachmeier, gets it done. And they put up a season high for points against a power conference opponent. 41 points was BYU against the Cyclones. So an impressive day for BYU. Bear Bachmeier passed for 307 yards, 2 touchdowns, completed 63% of his passes. Bear was excellent for BYU. And I think what makes it so much more impressive, Bears' performance, is that BYU becomes one-dimensional after LJ Martin goes out with an injury. Bear Bachmeier, you know he's going to throw it. You know he's going to lean on his arm, and yet he still gets it done. And Iowa State, I think a lot of Iowa State people were downplaying the significance of them being without 2 of their top cornerbacks. It's a massive drop-off. They can't defend the pass, and BYU capitalized. And I think that's impressive that, you know, BYU, you knew was probably going to be relying heavily on the passing attack, yet they could still have success. That's reason for optimism going forward for BYU. But I thought Bear was brilliant. Something to monitor, though, with Bear. He had his right leg wrapped up in the post game. Kind of precautionary. He had a bruise, as he noted. But he did have a wrap on his right leg. And myself and another reporter, we asked questions about that, and he just said it was just precautionary with the trainer, so nothing to be alarmed about there. And heck, after the day after the win, he's hanging out in Salt Lake with Adam Sandler. Adam Sandler posted on Instagram today a recap, a collage of photos from his Salt Lake City concert at the Delta Center on Sunday. And one of the pictures that Sandler posted was a picture of him with Bear Bachmeier and Tiger Bachmeier. The star power of Bear just continues to grow. He was wearing a Happy Gilmore jersey. You know, I always say Ryder Lyons is the aura king. Maybe the aura is just growing with Bear. Just this humble, modest, young guy, 19-year-old kid. But man, is he thriving. And he's stepping up for this BYU team. And even his teammates saying they're following his lead. They are rallying around Bear Bachmeier, and he is leading the charge of this BYU football team. And the workload is going to have to be even greater on his shoulders, depending on the status of LJ Martin. And LJ Martin, his injury, undisclosed injury, at first glance, it looked like a shoulder because he lowered that shoulder, but still undisclosed by BYU. Kalani Sitake said on Monday that they're still evaluating LJ Martin as they come out of the weekend. Still some days to go. I mean, you got until November 8th. That's 12 days away until the Cougs take on Texas Tech in Lubbock. But you hope that LJ Martin can have a speedy recovery, because after LJ, it's still relatively light at running back. To me, I look at the running back situation. If LJ can't go for the Texas Tech game, to me, I would make a position change happen. Not saying to start someone, but I would look at some player on the defensive side and get them some run at running back. This coaching staff, Kalani's tenure at BYU, is filled with examples of that. Matt Hadley, Tyler Algier, they've done this sort of thing in season even. And with a bye week, you can kind of experiment and say, you know what, this guy that's buried on the depth chart at this particular position, let's give him a look at running back. They got some good athletes on this team. I look at someone, and I'm just throwing this out there, I'm looking at someone like a Miles Hall, who was an excellent athlete in high school at Skyline High School. Linebacker, that tends to be the area where maybe you can pluck someone and put them over at running back, because body structure-wise, very similar to what you maybe want at the running back position. Again, right now you've got Preston Rex, Enoch Nawahine, Jovesa Demooney. I think out of the guys that are in the running back room right now that I am intrigued by the most, it's a deep cut name, and Kalani's even hinted at this, that you'll find out about these players once you see more. The guy that to me is the deep cut that I think could be really good, and you go back to Cougar Tracks episodes in fall camp and spring ball even, Logan Payne, Weber High School. He's a freshman, just got back from a mission last year. But to me, he could be a little bowling ball out of that backfield and get you some yardage and be pretty tough. So that's my recommendation. That's what I would say. But I'd explore a position change. And it doesn't have to be permanent. It can be temporary. But if lightning strikes, maybe it could work. Now, granted, with guys like Tyler Algier and Hadley, they had previous experience in high school at running back. Miles Hall played a wide receiver at Skyline High School. So it's tough to say that, but I'm just looking at overall athlete if I was to make that sort of change. But ideally, you'd want someone that's got a background at running the football. But then that adds to the workload of Bear Bachmeier. Bear, in the game against Iowa State, he was the leading rusher, 12 carries, 49 yards, 1 touchdown. And you don't want him to be a guy that's getting 20 carries, because with how the injuries are piling up for this BYU team, Bear's presence on the field is magnified even more. They need Bear Bachmeier every step of the way. And I've said all along, I do think the season hinges on LJ Martin. And if he can't go, that to me alters the ceiling potentially of BYU. I think he could still pull off an upset at Texas Tech, maybe. You can dig deep. I'm never going to prove or rule out a Kalani Sitake coach BYU team ever. That's just not who they are. Don't ever doubt BYU with Kalani. They will prove you wrong. But if LJ can't go, that gets a little more risky for this team to say, could they be a Big 12 championship game appearance team? The road becomes that much more challenging. You already know this schedule is tough with games against Texas Tech, TCU, Cincinnati, UCF. It's not going to be a walk in the park. You could lose 3 of those 4, even with LJ. But with him, you like your odds of maybe potentially running the table. Without him, a little bit tougher. So BYU's got to get creative. But these are good times for BYU football, though. I mean, if you're going to have to deal with injuries, this is the spot. Bye week, get healed up, keep guys that you know are proven commodities, keep them off their feet, let them rest, let them get ready for the battles ahead in November, because BYU is playing meaningful football in November, and that's all you can ask for, especially when you're led by a true freshman at the most important position at quarterback. Let's take a break. We'll get to the Cougar Stock Exchange coming up. It's Cougar Tracks right here on KSL News Radio. Welcome back into Cougar Tracks here on KSL News Radio every single day. Cougar Tracks comes to you on the KSL Sports YouTube and KSL NewsRadio. We'll be back to regularly scheduled programming on Tuesday. Had some hiccups today on Monday, so appreciate all of your patience and appreciate all of you on the NewsRadio airwaves listening to Cougar Tracks nightly, 6:30 to 7 on the legacy home of the Cougars. On Mondays, we roll this out every single week after a football game.
The Cougar Stock Exchange. What's trending up and what's trending down? It's the Cougar Stock Exchange.
And what's trending up is easy. Bear Bachmeier. I've said a lot about Bear already in the show. Bear clearly trending up. What a stud. Humble. Everything you want in a quarterback, honestly. He's a grounded guy. And let me clarify something, too. On social media, I posted a video of Bear walking out to the Jack Trice field. If you've seen it, or if you haven't, go check out my X feed or also KSL Sports Instagram, Mitch_Harper on X. Bear walks out barefoot, and I just said he's a nonchalant guy. That's a trendy term these days. It's not quite 6, 7 levels of trendy, but nonchalant guy is kind of trendy right now. Man, saying that while he walks out barefoot, I got a lecture on, hey, he's grounding. He's grounding. This is a thing. Folks, I've been at every BYU football game this season. I know he does the whole grounding bit. It was a meme sort of deal. Anyway, Bear is trending up and doing a fantastic job for this BYU team. Also trending up, Parker Kingston and Chase Roberts. Parker Kingston, 133 yards, 7 catches, 13 targets. Who would have thought Parker Kingston would be an absolute dog like this? Aaron Roderick said back in May that they were confident that Parker was going to be a reliable force every single game for this team. But this level of production, I don't think anyone saw this. Parker is playing at an incredibly high level, and Chase is doing an excellent job too. And you think back to fall camp, both of these guys were working their way back from injuries. I think they're finally, full strength. They're still banged up like anyone else at this point of the season. Physical league in the Big 12, but they're playing at such a high level. I would also add, too, the offensive line is trending up. I think this group has been really good. Iowa State only had 2 sacks in the game, and most of those were early. First quarter, when things were looking dire for BYU, they cleaned it up. They made adjustments. And that's also another piece that is trending up. This staff, they are so good at making adjustments. I've seen many BYU games in the past where it snowballs on you in the first half and you don't have an answer. Jay Hill, Aaron Roderick, they've got answers. Kalani Sitake empowers these guys, and they are in their bags this year. Aaron Roderick has done a brilliant job. Look, I know Aaron Roderick has gotten his share of detractors, and I've even been critical of him at times. But I think we got to respect what Aaron Roderick has done with this offense and this quarterback situation. It has been a masterful job. He has done excellent work. And Jay Hill continues to be brilliant with adjusting with this defense to the point where one of the best offensive lines in the Big 12, Iowa State, BYU gets 4 sacks on that offensive line, and all 4 of those come from the BYU defensive line. Trending down is the health of the team. You think about L.J. Martin gets banged up. Preston Rex, even late in the game, he goes to the medical tent. Bear Bachmeier had a wrap around his right leg. Sialia Sarah left the game early. Jack Kelly, it was reported by BYU TV's Spencer Linton, was in a sling. This team's banged up. You still don't have JoJo Phillips. He's expected to be back against Texas Tech. That was said by Aaron Roderick last week. You're expected to get back Raider to Mooney for the Texas Tech game. You still don't have Sione Moa. This is a banged-up team. Isaiah Glasker's going through being banged up. He even told me a few weeks ago that he's just playing through it, not at full strength. It's a banged-up team. They've got to get right health-wise going into the final stretch of the season. And I would also say, too, trending down, the rush defense. And look, ultimately, the most important stat in a game And as I highlighted, the adjustments to the defense and this team as a whole were really good in the second half. But the rush defense, they're giving up a lot of yards. 5 straight weeks where BYU is giving up more than 150 yards per game on the ground. 184 by Iowa State on the ground. Carson Hansen, number 26 for Iowa State, he had 16 carries for 152. Abu Sama, the other running back, 9 carries for 63. That's 25 carries for 215 yards. That's an excellent average. Those guys were averaging about 8 yards per pop. That's got to improve. And you like the impact the Havoc plays. Turnovers +4. Sacks, you're getting more than them. +2 on the sack front. But still, got to contain the rush defense a bit. Look, there's always areas to improve. But that's just something to monitor going forward. And I think that ties, too, to the health of this team on the defensive side. But there's not much that you can really nitpick about this BYU team, which is now tied for 10th in the latest AP Top 25 poll. And let me say this, too. That's ridiculous. An 8-0 team in a power conference like the Big 12 to only be 10th is absolutely ridiculous. It's ridiculous. BYU should be at least 7th or 6th in the AP Top 25. They're getting knocked because the pollsters, I feel, don't respect the Big 12 and they don't respect BYU's brand. That's all it is. They can't compute in their head that stretch Y is one of the best teams in college football. Go look at BYU's schedule thus far. Taking out Utah was a good win. Beating Iowa State, that's a good win. Even Stanford's been competitive this year. BYU is a really good football team, and for them to still only be 10th and technically the 11th team listed on the AP Top 25 because Miami is higher than them this week for some reason on the listing. It just doesn't make sense. Why can't BYU be ranked 5th or 6th? Why? They're undefeated. They're 8-0. Top 50 strength of schedule. They got one of the toughest schedules coming up. And you think, oh, it'll all play itself out. No, it won't. No, it won't. These perceptions seem to always just rear its ugly face. I'm really curious to see what the College Football Playoff Committee does, but I'm not optimistic. I'm not confident that they're going to say, hey, we're going to give you the benefit of the doubt. I don't believe it for one sec. We'll see, though. November 4th, next Tuesday, is the first playoff top 25 rankings that will be revealed, and BYU will be in that rankings. It's just a matter of where will they be ranked. They deserve to be in the top 7, at a minimum. Big 12's good football. It's really good football, and I think a lot of people around the country are sleeping on this league. That's going to do it for this edition of Cougar Tracks on this Monday edition. Back to the usual schedule next week. Talk to you tomorrow here on Cougar Tracks.